Hi guys, I've got another video here to explain to you the Tuesday workout for this week. We've got a few different time formats in there again for you, so it's split into 3 sections. The first part is every minute on the minute for 10 minutes. The second part is every minute on the minute for 9 minutes. And then the last bit is a 6-minute AMRAP. So just make sure before you start this that you've got a running clock set up just so you can keep track of what's happening there. You've got 2-minute rests that sit in between each section as well. So this first part is essentially 5 rounds. You've got a minute to do 8 to 12 electors. Don't worry if you don't know what they are, because I'll show you. And then you've got a minute to do 8 to 12 squat jumps. You'll probably be getting a fair amount of rest in each section there. So on the squat jumps, be looking for as much power as you can get. And on the electors, you want to try and choose a fairly challenging variation. And I'll show you a number of scaling options that you can use for them to determine how hard they are in relation to your ability. You've got the 2-minute rest after that. This second part is 3 rounds essentially. And again, you've got a minute to do each section. You've got the goblet squats in there, the press ups, and the knee to opposite elbow. Again, I'll show you what that is. With each of them, just make sure that you're choosing a number of reps where you're able to get the reps done by probably 45 seconds max. You want to get a little bit of rest in at the end of each round. And I think these will be a little bit tighter for time than they are in this first bit here. So just make sure you choose the right scaling option there. And like I said, the last part is nice and simple. It's just a 6-minute AMRAP. You'll just be alternating back and forth between thrusters and sit-ups as many times as you can to finish. So talking about the scaling options that are in there, the electors. What we're going to do for these, it's going to be easiest based on the equipment you've got available to you, is to start set up like this in a tuck position. We're going to try and open out into a hollow, and then we're going to try and come back into that tuck position. So I'm not coming up like I'm doing a tuck up. My back's staying on the floor. I'm going from hollow up into this tuck position like that. And you can do that with a weight in your hands. You can do it with a weight on both your hands and your feet, but that can be a little bit awkward if you're not using weight plates. But that is an option if you do have weight plates. If you've tried that and you think that's probably going to be too challenging, there are some scaling options you can throw in there. So if you want to keep the weight involved, you can keep the weight up here, straighten the legs out, bring the legs back in, or you can keep the weight here, straighten the legs out and pull the legs back in. Either way, we're looking to try and make sure you're getting into that tucked down position as you do that. So you're not letting your back go into here, especially when your legs are straightening out. We want to make sure that you're staying locked down and you're not opening up too much for your back. If doing any of those variations is too challenging with the weight, which it may well be, that's absolutely fine. You could try the same thing without the weight, so you could just start with the hands up here, legs out, legs back in. I'm trying to come back into that tucked position I was mentioning. Or you could simply go into tuck-ups if you wanted something simpler. So you could start in the hollow, come up into your tuck-up, and that's obviously a little bit more of a familiar variation, and will be a good one if you think that, particularly if the weight you've got is particularly heavy. But you've got a few variations in there of something we haven't done loads of before, but it would be a really nice way if you can do one of those variations of varying up the core work that you've been doing. The squat jumps, as we said, we just want as much power as you can get. So we're down into a squat, up as high as you can. Goblet squat, same idea. But now we've got the weight set up in front, and we're just up and down in your squat position, trying to stay nice and upright on these, and trying to get decent depth out of them. The press ups can obviously be done as full press ups, so you can go chest and floor, lock down arms like that, or you can do the same thing, knees down, chest and floor, back to locked out arms. Or, as I said before, do a mixture. It doesn't have to necessarily just be full press ups or press ups from your knees, it can be a little mix of both. The knees to elbow, but it's technically knees to opposite elbow. I'm going to set up in a front leaning rest like this, and as the name suggests, I'm trying to get my knee across to my opposite elbow each time. The 2 keys to getting this right are being nice and strong and stable in that front leaning rest position, particularly through the shoulders, and trying to use that tucking motion of your hips and your abs to try and get your knee up towards your elbow like that. I'd say your best scaling for that is going to be range of motion, so it might be that you can't get your knee all the way to your elbow. It might be that you do it a little bit more like that, where it's the same movement, but a little bit less exaggerated. But whatever you start with, finish with that. So if you start with getting the knees to the elbow, keep that going the whole way. Don't just change it as you start to get more tired. If you think you're going to struggle with them, scale them right back from the start. Okay? Into the rest, and you've got your thrusters in there. So your thrusters, if you've got two weights, great. If you're working with a single one, which is probably more likely, I'd probably set up with a weight like this. You'll be down like a goblet squat, up to locked out overhead. Remember, with that overhead portion, the more power we can get, the more drive we can get from the legs, the easier that should be. You don't want to make that part too shoulder heavy. We've then got the sit-ups after that. They should be nice and simple. It's just going from here into that tuck position, into that hollow, over into the top. You could do it without the arms, you could just do it with the arms by the side as well. We could cross them across the front as well. Same technique either way. In terms of a warm-up, just show you that so you can see that. So you've got the air squats and the walkouts. So starts the air squats is just to get the legs working a little bit before you get into it. The walkouts will just be straight legs coming down into your front leaning rest and then back up to standing. So it'll be a couple of rounds of them. We're over an FLR circuit on there. The idea is that we're going to work you in the front leaning rest position you're going to be using for your press-ups. And your knees to elbow, and we can just work your shoulders and your core a little bit to warm you up. So each of the exercises that I'm going to show you is going to be 10 reps. So you're going to start off in your front leaning rest here, and you're going to do 5 on each side, just knee up underneath you. Doesn't have to go to the opposite elbow, but just coming up underneath you. You're going to do 5 taps to each side, like that, and then you're also going to do 5 rotations out to each side, like that. And like I say, the idea there is just to work your core, work your shoulders a little bit before we get into the main part. We've also got the electors and the squat jumps in at the end there. Specifically, I'd like you to practice and work out what your scaling option is going to be for the electors. Are you going to do the full movement with weight? Are you going to do half the movement with weight? Are you going to sack the weight off and do something else? And work out what's going to be best for you. We want 8 to 12 really good quality reps. Like I said at the start, they can be challenging because you're not doing loads of reps per minute, but you've got to make sure you can do it with decent technique. And the big pitfall that's likely to happen on them is that people will lose that tuck down position. So say, I think, right, I'm going to go for it, I'm going to do it with my weight, I've got my back arched here, I come up like this, my back's still arched, come down like that, whereas actually we want you set up like this, so you can come up, tuck into that top position, so only my back's touching the floor, and then the same as I come out into my hollow body. So just be wary of that. If you are going to try and make it challenging, you can still tick that box of being tucked down. There are a couple of newer exercises in there, so if anyone does want any help, sort of more specifically with any of them, or you want sort of more specific guidance in terms of the scaling options, please get in touch with me or one of the other coaches and we can try and sort of push you in the right direction, you know, especially if it's equipment related or anything like that. But otherwise, enjoy the workout, make sure you've got a clock set up before you start, and I'll see you next week.